If everyone would please rise, we will have an invocation from Mr. Grove, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Mr. Lorraine.
Recite the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, on behalf of the council, I'd like to welcome everyone to this evening's meeting. As we progress through our meeting, public comment will be offered for each ordinance being discussed for a vote. If you would like to address the council on a resolution or another matter, please fill out a blue public wishing to address the council form located by the exit door and turn it into the council clerk prior to agenda item F, public wishing to address the council. We'll move into item A, approval of minutes. Have a motion by Mr. Adams, second by Mrs. Chasson to accept the minutes of the June 28, 2022 regular session. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes with 7 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence being Mr. Jones. Yeah, it is 8.
Oh, I'm sorry.
8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence being Mr. Jones. I mess up enough on my own. All right, item B, state or federal legislative updates. Any state or federal legislators? All right, moving to item C, presentations and/or updates. Item number 2, parish president to recognize the Foosh Parish Government Employee of the Month and/or WOW employees for the month of May, deferred from the May meeting. Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This employee has worked for the Lafourche Parish Animal Shelter for 10 years. She's a quiet leader and a quick learner. Our world of animal sheltering has evolved so much over the past decade, and she is always ready to learn and teach in a new way of doing things to increase life-saving and promoting community involvement. She's a quick behind the keyboard, and her team appreciates that she can enter important data with ease. She's also an excellent dog handler and cat wrangler. Basically, she can do it all. We can never thank her enough for her wavering work and dedication per the nominee. So our employee of the month for the month of May is Ms. Crystal Badu.
Please let her know that does require a speech. Well, thank you, Ms. Babin, to your contribution to Lafourche Parish government. We'll move on to item 3, parish president to recognize the Lafourche Parish Government Employee of the Month and/or WOW employees for the month of June. Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're batting 1,000 at the animal shelter in 2 months. So over the past decade, this employee has continued to grow and thrive in her job at the animal shelter. If you know her, you know that she works hard and plays harder. You can always find her leading the pack when physical labor is involved. You just don't ask her to sit still. She encourages everyone around her to rise to the occasion and is always pushing herself to be better and learn more. She's the face of the spay and neuter program to South Lafourche residents, where she travels once a month to help residents make appointments, which often require early morning travels with transporting pets. For this reason, we would like to thank her for her dedication to our life-saving goals. She could not be with us tonight, but our employee of the month for the month of June is Miss Jamie Pierce.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sir. Thank you, sir, and also thank you to Miss Pierce. Right, we'll move on to item D, legal advisory report. We have none. So item E, engineers and architect reports.
Check. Good evening, Jack Plazos with T. Baker Smith, 1100 South Van Avenue. I'll report on a couple of projects tonight. Firstly is the Eastside Drainage Phase 1. We're nearing completion on this project. The main items remaining are the permanent fencing along the 20 Arpent Canal, They're really just starting with that work now and expect that to be done in the next 2 to 3 weeks, depending on weather. And they're also working on site maintenance and cleanup in anticipation of finishing the project. I do have a couple of pictures. Next slide, please, Caroline. So this is near the end of East 90th along the 20 Arpin Canal. This is just dress-up work along the 20 Arpin Canal that was dredged. Next slide. This is on East 57th and East 58th, where there were some trees, and you can see that he's setting up to do some grinding on the stumps, and nearby, just dressing up along the route. Next slide. This is along the Valerie Canal, roughly behind East 60th Street. These were some culverts that were installed, and we saw some issue with the elevation of the culverts. Our inspectors did, and they replaced and reset with new pipe at that location. Next slide. This is just a little further down. This was a culvert that was no longer needed and removed from the site, cleaned up, and removed. It's just adjacent to the previous photographs you saw. Next slide. Wrong title at the top. This is the West Side Drainage Improvements, which is a statewide flood control grant application that we're working on to submit early in October. And it basically includes improving drainage along Highway 3235 from La Rose to Golden Meadow in about 7 locations that we're targeting for study. Next slide. And we mentioned last month about the Geographic Information System project that we're just starting on. This is your Geographic Information's website for the Lafourche Parish government. And we met with the parish team last week, scheduled the first phases of work with the IT staff, and are currently analyzing the existing system and gearing up to make some improvements and changes to the GIS system. And that will conclude my report.
Anybody with any questions for Mr. Jack? Mr. Lorraine?
Yeah, on the East Side Drainage Project, that would be considered Phase 1.
Yes,
Phase 2 would be the pump.
yes.
Or you know about where that pump's going to be installed? Just, not exactly, but about.
The area that's been described is just south of the Cloverly Farms along the 40 Arpin Canal, the Levee District Canal.
So which street? We talking about East 44th South or 43rd South?
That might be a little too specific for me to answer, Daniel, but generally that area just below the farm along the 40 Arpin.
No, the reason why I'm asking, because I was at a Levee District meeting yesterday, and they're pretty concerned about it. Okay? Thank you, man.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Lorraine. Thank you, Jack.
Thank you.
Good evening, Laura Barnes with GIS Engineering, 197 Elysian Drive. All right, so the first update, Cyprian Pump Station. So the phase 2 of this project started June 30th. The new pumps, gearheads, and diesel engines are now on site. They have been set in place. The pump manufacturer's representatives should be out to the site this week, where he'll check the alignment of the pumps, make sure that everything's good to go. And the estimated completion for this construction is 8/1, but it could be done sooner. Next update, Butch Hill Pump Station. We're just continuing in the final design phase of this, incorporating comments that we received during the preliminary design review, and continuing to coordinate with Norfolk Foosh on the levee tie-ins for this. Valentine Pontoon Bridge Rehab, so the final design is in progress. Additional geotech is in progress. We did submit the permit, and it was deemed administratively complete as of June 24th. Like I said, we're continuing with the design and optimizing the barge, and we anticipate completion of the final design package at the end of September. Then it will need to do a DOTD review and parish review, and then it will be ready to advertise. West 11th Street drainage improvements, the field surveying is complete. We're using that information to build the H&H model for existing conditions, and we should be getting a recommendation for improvements by the end of this month. And then Sanchez Bridge inspection and design, so the final design plans are complete, and we're currently in the bidding, negotiating, and construction administration services for the repairs.
Anybody with any questions for Ms. Barnes? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Good evening, David Waits Engineering and Surveying, 1107 Canal Boulevard, Thibodeau. We have one item on the agenda, item number 28, accepting the low bid of Barre Construction for the Priority Road List 2020 for Road Sales Tax District A. And that'll be, like I said, on the agenda for item number 28, and that's all we have.
All righty, thank you, sir. All right, item F, public wishing to address the council. Ms. Carlene.
Mr. Wayne Ogeron, you come to the podium, sir. State your name and address for the record, and please remember you have 3 minutes.
Wayne Ogeron, 4210 West Avenue C, Cutoff, Louisiana, 70345. And I was just wondering if there's somebody checking the tall grass ordinance and the derelict buildings and all. There's somebody around, or does the parish depend on the public to report them? The buildings issue that we might have down our streets.
Mr. President?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we technically don't have a code enforcement division. There's nobody, I will say, actively riding around. A lot of it, 90% of it, is probably complaint generated. But we do have compliance officers, or a compliance officer in solid waste, that if he's on the road doing something else and he spots one, we start to address it that way. But overall, it's pretty well driven on complaints.
Okay,
now, when it comes to derelict buildings post-storm, that's a whole different animal that's managed by a whole different group.
Well, that's what I'm talking about, one that's been about 6 years abandoned and all destroyed by fire. And the storm didn't take it away, so our neighbors were amazed that it stayed intact.
Yep.
And I did make a report, but nobody ever got back with me. Should somebody get back to the complainant?
So it all depends. In some cases we do, but a lot of these nuisance cases could take anywhere to 4 to 6 months to deal with sometimes, depending on, there's so many, in our ordinance, there's so many notification requirements. So if you have a derelict structure or a tall grass complaint, we send a letter. You have 30 days to deal with the tall grass. If you don't, there's another step we have to take, and then eventually we get to the point where either you cut it, or we send our contractor out to cut it. If it's a derelict structure, there's a whole different avenue where our building official has to go out and basically condemn the house, and it adds on some time frame. So if you write down the address, we can check on it. I'll have somebody from solid waste call you back. But if it's been, I don't know how long it's been since you made the complaint, but if it's been around for 6 years, then
I did it in November, and I put the wrong address. It got back to me from the post office in March, and I sent it back out with the right address.
okay.
So nobody's got, what's that, 3 months or so?
Yeah.
4 months almost?
And typically, I will say, and Dylan, correct me if I'm wrong, but our solid waste group doesn't typically call the complainant back on a regular basis to update them. Because if you see the stack of them we'd spend more time on the phone calling people to update them on the situation than we would actually processing them.
Should I make another report, or just?
Nope, just if you come walk over and I'll write down the address, and I'll get Wendy and Bob and solid waste to look it up, and I can give you a call back tomorrow, or Wendy or Bob will, and let you know what the status is.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Wayne.
Mr. Chad Pruitt, you come to the podium, sir. State your name and address for the record. Please remember you have 3 minutes.
Hello, my name is Chad Pruitt. My address is 100 Supercharged Drive in Thibodeau. Today, I'm just here to say that I'm president of Louisiana Eastside Riders Bike Club. We've been a bike club for about 5 years now. I'm just here today just to tell everybody who we are, what we're about, what we do. We're just a group of people that get together and go ride. That's how we started, you know, just kind of socialize and, you know, get out there and mingle with people. And then we started to a campaign just to kind of give back to the community in any way that we can. We donate to schools and different other things that we do. We put together funds for special need kids for a bicycle, numerous other things we've done. Basically, I'm just here to promote my event that I have October 1st. It's a ride for suicide prevention. It's October 1st in Thibodeau. It's just a ride trying to collect funds. You know, we charge $5 for a bike. Everybody comes, they ride, and then the money is donated to a charity. This year we give it to Hope Squad, which is a K-12 peer-to-peer group. It's a suicide group that focuses on suicide and mental health issues in adolescent kids. The only school that we have in Louisiana is at Lutcher High School. So we want to try to generate monies to have more schools open up for that. And the other thing is we try to raise donations for bike safety. Bike safety is a big issue in Louisiana. People are getting killed and injured. We want to try to get money together to buy lights, have a giveaway, and then put a safety class together somewhere in Thibodeau, you know, just basically telling people the rules of the road, you know, as far as bicyclists. You know, got to have a light in the front and the back, and just something to try to save lives in here in the parish. And my email is louisiana.esr@gmail.com. You can also find us at Instagram at ESR Louisiana, Facebook at Louisiana Eastside Riders Bike Club. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Chad. And that's Louisiana Eastside Riders.
Louisiana Eastside
on
Riders
Facebook.
Bike Club, yes.
And y'all advertise all your events on there.
Yep, all the events, everything that we do, your casual rides, everybody's invited. If you got a bike, you just come out, you know.
Thank you, Chad.
For the event in October, you can go sign up on your Facebook or something like that? You have a
Oh,
place
no,
they
what
can go
it
sign
is,
up?
it's not a registration, you just come to the event. October 1st is at Big Lots parking lot.
Big Lots,
That's where
okay.
it starts at. And what we do, we ride from Big Lots, we go down Canal Boulevard, we take East 7th, we ride all the way to Pelche Park. We stop at the pavilion for like refreshments and reflection. You know, people tell their stories about loved ones they lost. And then we ride back to Big Lots. And we ended up, but the registration is there. You come, you pay your registration, which is $5. And if you want to donate, you donate. All the proceeds this year go to Hope Squad.
Okay, so when it is again, October?
October 1st.
At what time?
It's, registration starts at 3.
Okay.
And ends at 5:30, and then we usually start riding around 5:45.
Okay, all right, cool, thank you.
All righty.
Thank you, Chad. Appreciate it.
All
Ms. Carlene?
That's it, sir.
All right, we'll move on to item G, council reports, news and announcements. Anyone with anything? Mr. Otan?
I just want to report I did go to a planning commission meeting last week, and I did praise them for their hard work because they had a full house in here, much more than that's right now. And specifically to talk about the hydrant issues. So the planning commission is working on possibly something that I think we'll be comfortable with moving and doing an ordinance amendment. So I'll look forward to that. And I did once again thank them for their hard work because they do have a very, very tough job.
Thank you, Mr. Otan. Anyone else? All right, before we move on, we do have a latest and greatest boards and commissions vacancies that's been posted to Lafourche Parish government, I believe Facebook and website. There are 7 boards or commissions that do have some vacancies. If you'd like to review that list there and apply for something that may be available. All right, we'll move on to item H, public hearing and ordinances for ratification. I have a motion by Mr. Otan, second by Mr. Arabi to open the public hearing. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence being Mr. Jones. I have a motion by Mr. Adams to move to a unanimous agenda item, second by Ms. Chasson. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence, being Mr. Jones. Unanimous item from the floor by Councilman Adams. This item is to approve an indemnification and hold harmless agreement between Lafourche Parish government and Laurel Valley Plantation LLC. Any public comment on this item? Second call, public. Third and final call, public. Mr. President, you have an explanation?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So as you guys probably know, it was probably a week ago now, we had to close Laurel Valley Road. There was a budget rent-a truck that ran off the road during some storm weather and clipped the old sugarcane crane that is off to the side of the road. An engineer looked at it, basically deemed it unsafe, so in consultation with Sheriff Weber, we closed the road. Laurel Valley has been working to get a contractor out there to dismantle the crane so we can open the road back up. Hopefully, if we pass this tonight, the contractor will be on site tomorrow. It should be a fairly quick demolition, and then we can hopefully open up the road Wednesday afternoonish, Thursday, depending on how things go. All this indemnification agreement really does is it says if by some happenstance the contractor drops it on the road and it dings the road, we're not going to make them repair the road. And it makes sense that the fault was no accident of us or them. If it does ding the road, we'll probably just make an additional insurance claim against the truck driver. But this indemnifies their contractor and Laurel Valley.
Is that section paved or shale?
Yeah, no, it's paved.
All righty, thank you, sir. Any council discussion on the unanimous item from the floor? All right, we'll take it to a vote. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence, being Mr. Jones. I have a motion by Ms. Chasson to return back to regular agenda, second by Mr. Adams. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence, being Mr. Jones. Item number 4, an ordinance authorizing the parish of Lafourche, State of Louisiana, to proceed with a not-to-exceed $110 million financing through Louisiana Local Government Environmental Facilities and Community Development Authority, authorizing and ratifying the parish's request of Louisiana Local Government Environmental Facilities and Community Development Authority to issue its revenue bonds, authorizing the borrowing by the parish of the proceeds from the sale thereof to finance additional costs associated with the demolition of certain damaged property and the repairs, reconstruction, and renovation of other properties, including but not limited to repairs to pump stations, and providing for the repayment of and security therefore, approving and ratifying the terms of the sale of the bonds, authorizing the form and execution of the loan agreement, authorizing the form of and execution of an agreement for the purchase of the bonds and ancillary financing documents, and otherwise provided with respect thereto. Motion by Mr. Adams, second by Mr. Oten. Any public comment? Second call, public. Third and final call, public. Any council discuss? Mr. Block, you want to speak?
Well, we put our names in, Mr. Ryan and I, in case there are any questions.
Anybody with any questions from the council? All right, we do, okay. I don't think there's anything, Mr. Block, thank you. We do have an amendment from the floor on this item. This amendment is by Mr. Adams. This amendment is to add the term sheet with Exhibit A and Exhibit B. Can I get a second on that? Second by Mrs. Chasson. Any public comment on the amendment?
Mr. Chairman, what was the amendment?
To add the term sheet with Exhibit A and Exhibit B.
The term sheet.
Which we didn't have until later.
Okay, motion by Mr. Adams, second by Mrs. Chasson. Any public comment? Second call, public. Third and final call, public. Any council discussion? All right, we'll take it to a vote. All in favor of the amendment from the floor? Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence, being Mr. Jones. We'll return to the original item number 4.
Mr. Chairman, do you mind, if that's been done, can I have a moment with the president? Because I'm involved with the Laurel Valley situation. I want to make sure it gets signed up timely. I just need 10 seconds with the president.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, on the original item number 4 as amended, any council discussion? We've already called for public hearing. Any council discussion? Mr. Oten?
Yeah, so I don't know if you can just kind of lighten us on this, the repayment schedule and how that's going to work, and it's a lot of money over a lot of years.
Sure, Nenny. The way it is set up is it's on a 10-year amortization. I'm sorry, a 10-year note, but it's a 8-year amortization, which basically means for the first 2 years, you're not required to make any payments. However, you have the ability to prepay the loan at any time you get FEMA reimbursements. And the way you can imagine an 8-year payment schedule with principal and interest, the way it works is, let's say that around the first of the year or at the end of the year, you all get $50 million reimbursed from FEMA, right? Well, we take that $50 million and we spread it across those 8 payments. We divvy it up so that your payments get smaller and smaller the more FEMA reimbursement that you get. As you know, you're at a 90% match, so 110 would be 99 million is what you expect to get from FEMA, probably another 4 or 5 in insurance somewhere in there. So at the end of the note, at the end of the thing in 10 years, probably, you know, the most you're gonna really owe is maybe $6, $7, $8 million. But the cool thing about this really is they will allow you to prepay it as fast as you can, get FEMA reimbursement in. This is simply, as you know, FEMA is a reimbursement program. So you have to spend your money first, make the repairs, and then apply to FEMA to get your money back. And, I mean, I've done these for the school board, we've done them for Terrebonne School, we've done them all over. The problem is that most entities like y'all don't have $110 million laying around for the repairs that your engineers tell you that you need. So you've got to borrow the money, spend your money first, spend the borrowing first, and then as you get reimbursed from FEMA, we pay the loan off as fast as we can.
But it wouldn't be lump up front from what you're saying, you just would spread out over the 8 years and just continuously do that, so that each year you won't have something that's just too overwhelming, I guess?
Yeah, that's exactly right, and we've kind of, when we started doing these for Calcasieu Parish and Lake Charles after Hurricane Laura was it Hurricane Laura? I forget the name. We started doing this, and what they were doing was they were tacking the payments on at the end of the debt service schedule, right? And what we realized was, well, that's great, but let's say Renita gets in $50 million in December, and we wipe $50 million off the back end of the loan, and then February, she's got a $10 million payment due. I mean, that's just stupid, because then all she gotta do is hold out that $10 million, not pay the 40, and then make it with a payment. So what we modified that structure so that now any prepayments that are received are spread across the entire principal payment of the amortization of the loan, so that they all get smaller.
And the reason for the 2 regions in Trustmark is why? Because you hit a cap or something, or?
So Regions has bought a lot of this paper, and when I say, I mean, like, again, we've done these from Lake Charles to Terrebonne in the last 2 years, and Regions has probably acquired, has loaned out probably the vast majority of that money. And in fact, when we did the one for Terrebonne schools, they didn't want to bid. We closed about $100 million for Terrebonne School Board first of the year-ish. Yeah. They didn't want to bid, and we were kind of surprised, and we called them and said, hey, why aren't you bidding? And they said, we got a lot of this paper, and we have a lot of this exposure right now. So we talked to them, so you know, y'all have always won the bids, and you're very competitive, and you're very easy to work with, and they like y'all. And so they kind of went back and said, okay, we're gonna co with Trustmark, so that we're not taking the risk on the whole 110. Trustmark will take part of the risk, we'll take part of the risk. But I was glad they did that because it got them back into the game, and they're very easy to work with, they're very good at it, and they're usually the low bidder. On this one, they actually weren't the low bidder, Capital One was, but Capital One we had 2 problems with Capital One's bid. Number one, Capital One wanted us to go out and get insurance on these bonds, and that probably would have cost us right around $1 million. These bonds are at 4.2%, the bid you have tonight. Capital One bid at 3.65, I think. But when we factored in the extra $1 million that you all were going to have to spend, even if you am the note out for the full 10 years, that's an extra $100,000 a year. Well, when you factor that into the real internal rate of return, the Region's Trustmark bid was lower as a real internal rate of return for the parish. And the other thing we didn't like about the other bid was they wanted to go back to the idea of putting prepayments on the back as high as long as possible. Regions agreed, because that's one of the things we put in the term sheet when we requested bids, was we said we want to spread the payments out over the life of the loan, so all the principal payments are paid down equally as we make repayments. Capital One didn't want to do that. They wanted us to put it on the back of the loan, which would have cost you more than interest.
Well, I appreciate you putting it in layman's term, because I honestly thought that I'd have no clue what the hell you were talking about, and I understood it all, so thank you. Very well explained. It's a lot of money.
Thank you, Mr. Otan. Mr. Melvin?
Yes, sir. I don't have necessarily a problem, even though there's a lot of money. Where I have some hiccups is anytime you do anything with the feds these days, and to me, the Fed is just, the federal government these days, FEMA, what have you, you become beholden to them. And to me, everything's political, unfortunately, now. It's not just about paying a loan like you pay your mortgage. Are we going to be, is there some acquiescence where we're going to be beholden to these people for different things they're going to pull down the road for complying with this or that?
Yeah,
Or
this money is not coming from the feds. This money is being lent to you.
well,
by-
but the payback comes from FEMA.
That's correct, yes.
That is the linchpin.
That's exactly correct. And believe me, you're not the only one in that boat. I've never understood why it's a reimbursement program. I mean, what parish or school board down here has $110, $150 million laying around? We did over $200 million for Calcasieu Lake Charles after war. And I mean, they're one of the wealthiest parishes in this state. They've got plenty of money, but they don't have that kind of cash laying around to rebuild.
Right, and you can understand our concern. It's a lot of money. And also, I've said it at past meetings, it takes an act of Congress to get some money down here to do things. And look, I'm all about paying loans back, okay? But again, I've said it before, the federal government writes a check for $10 billion overnight to Africa, Ukraine, or wherever. Where's that money going? I mean, that's another question. I'm not getting into the weeds, but my point is you can see where this is. It takes an act of Congress for us to get some money to fix things. Insurance companies backing out crawfish and everything else, but my concern is if we're dependent on getting this money from FEMA, that is my concern.
So there, Mr. Chairman, if I can,
Yes, sir.
there's no quid pro quo with FEMA, that if we take $1 from them, we're beholden to them for anything, whether it's a regulation down the road or anything like that. But the glory of this, to those of you, and it is a lot of money, and we're working right now for Jim and Harold to give them some type of drawdown schedule of how we're gonna burn through this money. It's not like when they sell these things, they give us a check for $102 million or whatever the final number is on your schedule, and we start playing with it, right? They're gonna sell the bonds, we're gonna have access to it, but we're gonna draw it down in a certain schedule. So if, I'll use a pump station X, for example, right? We're working with GIS engineering on the Edgar Gidry pump station. The solution to fix that pump station from the storm damage is $5 million, right? They're gonna come up with the engineering behind it. They're gonna come up with a cost estimate. We're gonna submit that to FEMA. FEMA's gonna approve that before we go spend the $5 million, so that before I draw it down and know I have to pay it back, I have something from FEMA that says, you're gonna get the money back, right? So there's gonna be some guarantee there that before we really start to draw down that money, we're gonna get it obligated to be able to pay it back.
I understand, so it's a guarantee for no guarantee, basically, because, again, you're going through FEMA, and we are gonna be beholden to them, that's my point. But I get it, we gotta do the dance. It's just, that's the issue I have, is that exactly, because they can toy with us for years. That's just me, with FEMA.
Thank you, Mr. Melvin. Mr. Grow?
I guess my question is, it is a lot of money, but when it's listed that it's for like damaged property, what do we have, reconstruction, renovation, but then there's this, you see in contracts often is, for pump stations, including but not limited to. We could find ways to spend that money quick. I mean, engineers can find ways, so do we have the punch list, the projects that, to where it's not a money grab, to where we handling stuff that actually needs to be done? What do you plan on doing with it?
So we've already tasked out a lot of these projects. There's 14 pump stations on the initial list. Those out of the 84 pump stations that we looked at after the storm, 14 of them were the dire need fixes, right? So those have been doled out to the engineers to start working on. There's an engineering group that was hired to do all the recreational facilities. So that goes back to that email I think you and I had over the weekend, maybe about Heroes Park. All of those recreational facilities up and down the bayou, fixing light poles, that sort of thing is all on that damage assessment. All of our buildings are on that damage assessment. So it's confined to a certain project. It's not that, we're not gonna take this money, nor would Jim or Mr. Howell let us take this money to go buy a building or to go turf a field or to update a pump station that wasn't on the drawdown list that we're gonna have to turn into them. That was part of the damage assessment that we've already turned into FEMA. So all of this gets cross-referenced to what HGA has already turned into FEMA.
Okay, that was my question. I mean, so I guess I'm hearing that you want to tackle drainage first. You know, obviously, we need to do work on like the centrals, the base of the field, those soccer fields where FEMA camped out, you know. But, you know, we could spin it there, turf the whole thing, you know. But I mean,
But we can't.
you want to get drainage stuff done.
And
Okay.
Mr. Gross, to add on to that, so because you guys can borrow tax exempt, right? So when you borrow money, let's say I'm loaning you money to the government, when you pay me interest back, I don't have to pay federal taxes on the interest that you pay me.
Okay.
That's, you hear muni bonds. You hear people say I invest in muni bonds because they're tax exempt. So the IRS, because the one who's not getting the money is the Internal Revenue Service, they have a ton of rules and regulations about when you all do this. And one of the things that President Chaucer mentioned is he sent us the damage report and then went back through it and said, this is what we intend to spend the money on. That's not just something to make us feel good. That is so we can tell the IRS, specifically Harold in his opinion, that we have reviewed these projects. Here's the list. Okay?
Shovel ready or whatever you want to call it, yeah.
All of these qualify for tax exempt financing. For example, some of this stuff won't. Like if you want to buy a new bulldozer or a new tractor, no, can't do it. If you want to pay salaries, retirement benefits, can't do it. Those aren't tax exempt purposes. So the IRS is very clear about what you can and can't do with the money. And when Mr. Block issues his opinion, I mean, the bonds have got this many documents, and part of that is here's the list provided to us by the parish of the specific projects they intend to use the money for. And Harold needs that to be able to tell the Internal Revenue Service this qualifies as a tax exempt bond.
And I will also say, Councilman Grow, that when we draw down that money on our side, we're gonna have to do a supplemental to book that money. So you guys are gonna see a whole bunch of supplementals come through as we start to get those projects from the engineering phase through the bid phase, and we know what those dollars are gonna be when we draw them down. So you guys are gonna see this over and over again, so you're gonna know that we're spending this money on pump stations or building repairs to cash flow it. And if we try to do something stupid, you guys, not only would they catch it and say, Archie, you can't do it, but even if I tried to defy them and send it to you, you guys would be able to catch it that and go, Archie, you're trying to do something stupid, we're not gonna vote for it. So there's a whole bunch of checks and balances in this to stop that kind of thing from happening.
And if I can just mention something, and I'm gonna pay all of you a compliment. $110 million is a huge amount of money, and it's gotta be paid back. One of the things that's the most important and critical matters is that we have a competent administration, we have a competent council that works together. Everybody's got their shoulder to the same wheel. I think y'all are gonna do everything you need to do and do it correctly. And I'm comfortable with signing off on a number of the documents I'll have to sign off on. But as we go forward, I think y'all need to realize we have borrowed a serious amount of money because we have serious problems that need to be resolved, and the way you're going to resolve them, it's going to cost a lot of money. You all need to continue working together to make certain that as the months and the years go by, this money does in fact get paid back. Otherwise, you'll be leaving a big hole for the next council.
But that's my concern. I mean, I appreciate the compliments on our group, and I mean, we all trying to steer the ship in the same way, but I mean, who's gonna be here in 5 years and 10 years when this thing's still rolling? We bonded to the hilt.
Well, hopefully a lot gets paid up front, and I have had the pleasure of attending your meetings for the last year and a half, and I think what I've witnessed in the last year and a half will continue. So I think everybody on this bond team is comfortable with the Lafourche Parish administration and the council.
Thank you, Mr. Grove. Thank you, gentlemen. With no further discussion, we'll take it to a vote on item number 4 as amended. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence, being Mr. Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir.
Now can I speak to the president just for a minute?
Yes, sir. Item number 5, an ordinance providing for a 2022 supplemental appropriation 22-009 within the 2022 operations and maintenance budget and capital outlay budget to cover the cost for various projects and increase the budget for the communications department and Head Start, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said transactions as provided by Article 6 of the Lafourche Parish Home Rule Charter. Motion by Mr. Adams, second by Mr. Otan. Any public comment? Second call public. Third and final call public. Any council discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence, being Mr. Jones. Item number 6, an ordinance providing for a 2022 supplemental appropriation 22-010 within the 2022 operations and maintenance budget and capital outlay budget, increasing the budget for fiscal year 2020-2021 Louisiana Local Government Assistance Program, LGAP, in the amount of $30,000. And authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said transactions as provided by Article 6 of the Lafourche Parish Home Rule Charter. Motion by Mr. Adams, second by Mr. Lorraine. Any public comment? Second call public. Third and final call public. Any council discussion? We'll move it to a vote. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence, being Mr. Jones. Item number 7, an ordinance providing for a 2022 supplemental appropriation 22-011 within the 2022 operations and maintenance budget and capital outlay budget to de-obligate complete projects, cover estimated overages in the operations and maintenance budget and capital outlay budget, and correct carry-forward balances, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said transactions as provided by Article 6 of the Foosh Parish Home Rule Charter. Motion by Mr. Adams, second by Mr. Otan. Any public comment? Second call public. Third and final call public. Any council discussion? With there being none, we'll take it to a vote. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence, being Mr. Jones. Have a motion by Mr. Otan, second by Mr. Araby, to close public hearing. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence, being Mr. Jones. Item I, proposed ordinances. Ms. Chesson, will you do the honors, please?
Yes, proposed ordinances, number 8, proposed ordinance amending ordinance number 5445, lined out to establish the maximum salaries of the members of Lafourche Parish Council, to establish the maximum salary of Lafourche Parish Council Chairman, as well as to set a 2% annual increase, and in bold, amending and reenacting Chapter 2, Article 3, Section 2-76, Parish Council's salary of the Lafourche Parish Code of Ordinances as it pertains to amending the establishing of the salary of the Lafourche Parish Council, effective with the next term of office, year 2024. Mr. Jim Wendell. Number 9, proposed ordinance amending ordinance number 5971 and amending and reenacting Chapter 2, Administration, Article 3, Provisions Governing Operations of Parish Governing Body, Division 1-Generally, Section 2-68, Parish President's Salary of Lafourche Parish Code of Ordinances as it pertains to amending the establishing of the salary of Lafourche Parish President, effective with the next term of office, year 2024. Mr. Jim Wendell. Number 10, proposed ordinance amending and reenacting Chapter 6 amusements. Amusements to create and establish Article 5, video poker devices of Lafourche Parish Code of Ordinances as it pertains to prohibiting the operation of more than 3 video poker devices within 1 mile of protected properties. Mr. Michael Groh. Number 11, proposed ordinance amending and reenacting Chapter 6, amusements to create and establish Article 6, historical horse racing machines of Lafourche Parish Code of Ordinances as it pertains to historical horse racing machine locations, prohibited distance, prohibited properties, and the number of machines allowable in wagering facilities licensed to conduct historical horse racing. Mr. Michael Groh. Number 12, proposed ordinance providing for a 2022 supplemental appropriation 22-012 within the 2022 operations and maintenance budget and capital outlay budget, increasing the budget for priority road lists, road sales tax District 2, PT 002, in the amount of $1,260,000, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said transactions as provided for by Article 6 of the Lafourche Parish Home Rule Charter. Mr. Jim Wendell for administration. Number 13, proposed ordinance approving a 35-foot drainage and maintenance servitude agreement between Energy Realty Investment Company, LLC, and the Foosh Parish government in the Thibodeau area, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and any and all relevant documents. Mr. Michael Grove for administration. 14, proposed ordinance approving a 40-foot drainage and maintenance servitude agreement between Energy Realty Investment Company, LLC, and the Foosh Parish government in the Thibodeau area, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and any and all relevant documents. Mr. Michael Grove for administration. 15, proposed ordinance approving a servitude agreement between J.B. Levert Land Company, LLC, and the Foosh Parish government in the Thibodeau area, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and any and all relevant documents. Mr. W. Adams for administration. 16, proposed ordinance amending ordinance number 4633 that accepted the subdivision known as Latour Subdivision Phase 1 into the parish system. Mr. Terry Araby for administration. 17, proposed ordinance to dededicate the rear 816 linear feet of Latour Boulevard located in Ward 7, District 6 of Lafourche Parish, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer any and all relevant documents. Mr. Terry Araby for administration.
Thank you, ma'am. We'll move to item J, resolutions. For the record, Mr. Oten has stepped out of the chambers. Item 18, resolution appointing one member to the Veterans Memorial District Ward 10 of the Parish of Lafourche Board. Motion by Ms. Chasson. Ms. Chasson, who do you have?
We have one vacancy, one applicant, Mr. Wilbur Cloutier.
Mr. Wilbur Cloutier, second by Mr. Adams. For the record, Mr. Oten has re-entered the chambers. Any discussion on Mr. Cloutier? All right, we'll take it to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence being Mr. Jones. Item number 19, resolution appointing one member to the Head Start Policy Council as a community representative alternate. Motion by Ms. Chasson. Ms. Chasson, who do you have?
One vacancy, one applicant, Ms. Holly Rome.
Ms. Holly Rome, second by Mr. Adams. Any discussion? Take it to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence being Mr. Jones. Item 20, resolution appointing one member to the Fire Protection District Number 3 Board. Motion by Ms. Chasson. Ms. Chasson, who do you have?
We have one vacancy and two applicants, Mr. Dean Savoy.
Mr. Dean Savoy, second again by Mr. Adams. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence being Mr. Jones. Item 21, resolution appointing one member to the Recreation District Number 1 Board. Motion by Mr. Oten. Mr. Oten, who do you have?
I nominate Mr. Rusty Edwards.
Mr. Rusty Edwards, have a second by Mr. Araby. Any discussion?
Yes, I just want to comment that I'm very appreciative that Lockport Police Chief David Harrelson had submitted his name. Unfortunately, I had already engaged Rusty, but he's been a very important part of recreation in Lockport as of recent. And certainly, he's a critical part of our first responder network. So I just want to thank him publicly for applying, but I do recommend Rusty Edwards at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Oten. Any further discussion? All right, we'll take it to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence being Mr. Jones. Item 22, resolution appointing one member to the Ambulance Service District Number 1 Board. Motion by Ms. Chasson. Ms. Chasson, who do you have?
One vacancy, two applicants, nominate Mr. Aaron Araby.
Mr. Aaron Araby.
And Farrell Trahan was the other one. I failed to mention that, but Mr. Aaron Araby is my,
All right, Mr. Aaron Araby, second by Mr. Adams. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence being Mr. Jones. Item number 23, resolution appointing one member to the Drainage District Number 1 Board. Motion by Mr. Oten. Mr. Oten, who do you have?
Yes, I enthusiastically nominate the very effective Mr. Andrew Griffin.
Mr. Andrew Griffith, and I have a second by Mr. Grow. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence. Oh, you nay? I'm sorry. Motion passes with 7 yeas, 1 nay being Mr. Lorraine, and 1 absence being Mr. Jones. Sorry about that. Item number 24, resolution appointing one member to the Fire Protection District Number 8A Board. Motion by Mr. Adams. Mr. Adams, who do you have?
Jonathan Cortez.
Jonathan Cortez, second by Mrs. Chasson. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence, being Mr. Jones. Item number 25, resolution appointing 1 member to the Special Education District Number 1 Board. Motion by Mrs. Chasson. Ms. Chasson, who do you have?
1 vacancy, 1 applicant, Miss Celeste Alamo by Church.
Ms. Bychurch, and I have a second by Mr. Adams. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence, being Mr. Jones. Item number 26, resolution approving amendment number 1 to the agreement between Lafourche Parish Government and GIS Engineering LLC for the project titled Valentine Pontoon Bridge Rehab Project, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said amendment and any and all relevant documents. Motion by Mr. Otan, second by Mr. Araby. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence, being Mr. Jones. Item number 27, resolution accepting grants in the amount of $24,900 for the Lafourche Parish Animal Shelter and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer any and all relevant documents. Motion by Mr. Adams, second by Mrs. Chasson. Any discussion? We'll take it to a vote. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence, being Mr. Jones. Item number 28, resolution accepting the low bid of Barrier Construction Company LLC in the amount of $1,055,123.11 for the project titled Priority Road List 2020 Road Sales Tax District A Road Improvement Project, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer an agreement and any and all relevant documents. Motion by Mr. Adams, second by Mr. Araby. Any discussion? Take it to a vote. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence, being Mr. Jones. Item 29, resolution accepting the low bid of LA Contracting Enterprise LLC in the amount of $2,278,745.50 for the project titled Priority Road List 2020 Road Sales Tax District 2 Road Improvement Project, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer an agreement and any and all relevant documents. Motion by Mrs. Chasson, second by Mr. Adams. Any discussion? Mr. Grow.
Are they new to the road bit? I mean, I know they local, I'm glad to see, but you usually always see Huey and Barrier, you know, just wondering.
I don't know if they've done any road projects far since we've been here. I've seen them do road projects in the past. Huey and Barry both bid on this particular job. LA was just a low.
Sure, that's good.
Thank you, Mr. Grow. Thank you, Mr. President. We'll take it to a vote with no further discussion. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence, being Mr. Jones. Item number 30, resolution approving amendment number 5 to the contract between Lafourche Parish Government and Mosquito Control of Lafourche LLC, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said amendment and any and all relevant documents. Motion by Mr. Adams, second by Mr. Araby. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence, being Mr. Jones. Item 31, resolution approving a contract between the Governor's Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness and Lafourche Parish Government for Hunt, Gilliott, and Associates to provide assistance and services to pursue funding through the FEMA Hazardous Mitigation Grant Program allocation for Hurricane Ida, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said contract and any and all relevant documents. Motion by Mrs. Chasson, second by Mr. Adams. Any discussion? With no discussion, we'll take it to a vote. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence, being Mr. Jones. Item number 32, resolution approving a contract between the Governor's Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness and Lafourche Parish Government for Hunt, Gilliott, and Associates to provide assistance and services to pursue funding through the FEMA Hazardous Mitigation Grant Program allocation for Hurricane Zeta, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said contract and any and all relevant documents. Motion by Mrs. Chasson, second by Mr. Adams. Any discussion? With no discussion, we'll take it to a vote. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence, being Mr. Jones. We'll move into item K. We have no discussion. Item L, Parish President, Department Heads, and Director Managers Reports. Number 33, Department of Public Works Representative to present a report. Mr. Barone, good evening, sir.
Good evening. Thank you. Okay, getting started with the July presentation for DPW. Starting in the Thibodeau Field Office, this is Diplomat Way outfall. Remove trees from the outfall. And also swept the outfall. Manchester Manor swept roadside ditches. Parkside Drive installed a driveway culvert. Supercharged Drive repaired a pothole. Moving to the Choctaw Field Office, Banan Pump Station, clean reservoir. And the Banan South Borough Canal, clean the canal. Coteau Lane swept roadside ditches. DeRoche Subdivision installed driveway culvert. LeBout Pump Station cleaned trash rakes and reservoir. Moving to Bayou Blue Field Office, this is Chisholm Trail, installed a driveway culvert. Bayou Bend Drive swept roadside ditches. Louise Street swept roadside ditches. Moving to the Raceland Field Office, this is Pelche Drive, swept roadside ditches. First Street repaired road base failure. Gazo Canal removed spalls from the canal bank. Pelican Drive outfall swept outfall. St. Anne Street outfall swept outfall. For Lockport Field Office is Buchanan Street repaired road base failure. Clotilda outfall swept outfall. Hamilton Street Bridge repaired washout. I do also want to state that this washout was caused by a ruptured water line. It's not erosion or anything from the canal. It was a ruptured water line. You can see on the left picture that blue water line that was repaired. And after it was repaired, we went back and filled it in. Romey Drive, clean culverts. T-Wall Pump Station, removed debris from the pump station intake. Jesse Dufresne Pump Station, clean trash rakes. Johnny Dufresne Drive outfall, swept outfall. St. Joseph Street outfall, swept outfall. East 23rd Street, removed collapsed landscape culverts. East 23rd Street, replaced collapsed driveway culvert. Moving to the Galliana Field Office, East 100th Street outfall, swept outfall. East 137th Street, repaired road base failure. Ray Sheremy outfall, swept outfall. As far as the work the maintenance contractor did over the past month, this is Chester Lee, repaired driveway. Prairie Lake subdivision, repaired road panels. And this is the sweeping of the Gazo Canal. As far as the office work that was completed through June, one temporary agreement was completed, one major subdivision inspection, and 6 property redivision reviews were completed, 2 major subdivision reviews, 25 culvert permits and 1 fence permit were issued, 230 online work requests were received, 102 permits were reviewed for compliance. Currently, we have 18 projects in design phase, 12 are under construction, and 2 are out for bid. The new work order system is going very well on our end. Over just the last month, our work orders increased by about 430% from the previous month. I'm not sure if it's the ease of it or if more people are inclined to do it, but it's working out well. No issues on our end. If y'all have any issues, please bring them to us. I know we have a few councilmen that are utilizing the work order system, and I think it's going well. And with that, I'll entertain any questions.
All right, for the record, Mr. Jones entered the chambers at 5:57, just in time for Mr. Lafourche's feedback. Mr. Araby.
Yes, sir. Mr. Dillon,
Yes, sir.
can you give me an update on where we at with the Blanchard Canal culvert collapsing?
So that was discussed with the administration last week and was forwarded to the DA early this week. So as soon as we get some information, I know I talked to you on Friday, updated you with all we had. We just sending all of that info over to them, so hopefully we can make a determination. If it was clear cut and we had a right of way, I think we could do it, but just to make sure that everything's in place before we spend parish funds and do that work.
Okay, well, you cut out some of these streets over here, like on Pearl Street and Cedar Street, I think it is, one of the streets y'all cut out. Are we gonna go back and put blacktop in there later on?
Yes, sir.
That's the plans?
Yes, sir. We already have a PO issued to the maintenance contractor for them to do that. That's all been measured, cut out, and a PO ready to go. We just like to let it sit for 2 to 3 months until it packs tight enough, and then we'll remove the rock and lay asphalt with a hot patch.
Another question, I got, a while back, you asked us to turn in 5 priority streets in our area that we thought needed, of course, I turned in 6 or 7 of them, I think, but, where we stand with that? I mean, I know we're spending $1 million on a project, up further north. Where we stand with that in our
Yep.
area, in the central part of the parish?
So that was, that was included from 2021. This would be the 2022 road priority project. We have not submitted that to any engineers as of yet. After seeing pricing this year, we may have to hold up and wait 2 years to do a project. But we'll see how this project goes. The costs are coming back 40% higher. Fuel costs are through the roof. So once we see this project through and see where we are gonna use those streets. They are on the list. As far as issuing out to engineer though, that hasn't happened yet.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Arabi. Mr. Grove.
Yeah, I was gonna kinda ask the same thing. My, Christmas list is still the same. I don't want you to take anything off and let me know if there's any you think we can do in terms of the roads. All those pictures, those were done in-house, like we doing those street repairs, or was that any of that
Yeah,
subbed
everything's
out?
done by us except what you see maintenance contractor.
Okay. How are we right now with, like curb repairs? Are we subbing that out to?
Yes.
Norris and Boudreaux? So if you have, if I have a neighborhood, just get you the addresses and we'll see if we
Sure.
can, you know.
Sure, we'll go measure it out. We are doing one in your area. I'm trying to think of the name of the street. It's in the King George area.
Do we ask people to move their mailboxes? Because the mailman's doing it. I mean, most of the time. I mean, we just fix it and wait for the mailman and just keep shredding it up. You know, I don't, you know what I'm saying? It's always about the mailboxes and the mailman's pulling up, a mail person.
Yeah, I mean, the way we fixed them, it shouldn't happen. I'm not sure if it was inferior concrete or bad pour. Not sure what happened, but the way we fixed them, that shouldn't happen just from a small mail truck. But
So get the whole neighborhood, you look.
yeah, send me some addresses, and you don't have to get it.
Mobilize.
We're gonna go measure it. So if you just give me some roundabout addresses, we're gonna go measure each one of them and give the linear footage to the contractor. We pay per linear foot to be replaced. And back to the road for you, Mr. Arabi's question, all of those streets have been vetted. So we've had somebody ride, take pictures, view every single street. So those are vetted. We just at the process where we need to decide if we're gonna submit it to the engineer or not to get a project completed. Just to clarify that.
That one I sent you, I'm sorry about that.
That's okay.
The one I sent you in Abigail, that landscape culvert, there's a big drainage. Is it failing? Is that culvert failing, or it was just poor design by the catch basins? You get a chance to
There's
check
no
that out?
catch basins, it's just tees, and then they put tees, they didn't secure the lids anyway on it. They just threw lids on the ground and let the grass grow through it. So the grading is not secured in any way, shape, or form to the riser. So what I think is, we're gonna have to excavate to see, but there may be a pinhole where the tee was welded to the pipe, and the land is eroding through that hole. So we'll verify that when we get in. If that's the case, we'll have to patch, pull up, put a
Hopefully
new
don't
tee,
have to pull a hole.
put a new catch basin. Hopefully not, but it's one of those things you don't know till you excavate. So we're gonna
But
get a
you can
feel
cut in
for it.
and just do new catch basins.
Yeah, we can. I mean, that's the most expensive approach. What we'd like to do is patch with cement, make a nice catch basin lid, and put a grading over it. But that might not be the case. We may have to go a little deeper on that one.
Thank you, Mr. Grove. Mr. Melvin.
Yeah, Dylan, real quick, as far as the maintenance thing, I used to do the maintenance on the computers. Pretty much the same thing found under the drop blocks?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Good, I'll look it up. Also, I was gonna mention Eastside Bike Club, they came. Grass behind the Brandywine, they didn't have a key, I think, for Mr. Ronald Adams' gate. They said people were seeing, they talked to him, and the guy called me, said, yeah, they were back there, but they couldn't get past the gate. Do you know if they got the key to get past this gate?
This is the first I hear of it, but I'll check into it.
Okay, yeah, me too, so, anyway,
Yep. I mean, I know we've cut it before, so I don't know why
Yeah.
unless somebody changed a lot.
right, okay. Well, that's what I wanted to know, but thank you, just check with me on that.
Yes, sir, I'll check into it.
No. Thank you, Mr. Melvin. Mr. Adams.
Oh, hey, Dylan. So, my question, I seen the Manchester Manor ditches cleaned out in the front. I know there's one that kind of runs behind some of the houses. I put in work on it for that. Can you check on that to see when that can get done, or if it can get done?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. Mrs. Chesson.
Well, we got a few things to talk about. Okay, the Rosebud lunch. I know you said the The excavator was there?
The dozer was
The
mobilized
dozer's
to the
there, the
site,
rocks
yep.
are delivered?
They are coordinating that with GIS. I'm not sure if the rocks were delivered, they were delivered today, but the PO is issued, everything's ready to go. They just trying to coordinate a delivery because we need
And
8
did anyone
or
check the lights?
10 loads. I'll forward that to the streetlight department. I'll check on that though.
Okay, and then West 11th, we got the trash picked up out of the
Yes, ma'am.
yards that was there. And do we know yet about when we could meet with the people to discuss right-of-ways and all
So
of
they,
that?
GIS in their report, July 29th. So
July 29th.
I think we need some
Sometime
time
after
to
that?
digest it after that. Let's see what they recommend, let's see what's feasible and what we have the funds to do. And then at that time, I think we can put our heads together and set up something.
Now, the West Side project that Jack was talking about, which street does that start on?
West 11th, 13th
West
is the
11th?
first street, yes, ma'am.
Okay, so is this gonna tie in?
Yes, it's gonna go from West 11th almost to West 15th. There's 3 outfalls that the parish has right away on. All 3 of those are gonna be improved, so to speak.
Exciting.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mrs. Chasson. Mr. Lorraine.
Yeah, Dylan.
Yes, sir.
When you change out, when you're doing a driveway cover, the owner of the property pays for the cover, right, and the installation?
For the first one. For the second one, we've always done it where the parish buys the culvert.
No, but
For the
a
initial
normal
culvert?
driveway cover, you could put 2 40-foot driveway covers. Now, if you get a culvert that's damaged or doesn't drain anymore, that you have to pull it out, the parish pays for it.
Correct.
It's causing a lot of problems, is what I'm saying, okay? Because I saw on 23rd you did that, and usually you do it quite often. But I'm just saying that, and I wanted to be sure what I was talking about. But now, let me just say this. The state on Highway 3235 did a job right south of the Sonic, no, north of the Sonic and south of McDonald's. McDonald's, we got a right-of-way with a ditch coming that takes care of West 122, 123, and 124, coming all the way behind McDonald. The state just recently completed a job 300 feet from there, from McDonald to the south. First of all, when they did the job, they did it halfway, and all the drainage was clogged up. Whatever they did, they didn't do it right. So I talked to the state rep. Finally, he got him to go and complete the job. Now it all drains. But the problem I got is from McDonald, 300 feet to get to the culvert, it doesn't drain. So I sent in a request. And on that thing, it's got, Daniel would like the parish to dig along Highway 3235 from the north to south. Well, that doesn't have to be dug. To McDonald, now that the state put the culverts across to the 3235, but it's really from McDonald to the culvert to get all that water out there. That water staggered. Most of the time we can't even cut the grass because the water just stays there. And the answer I got was outside of parish responsibility. Gentlemen, every councilman sitting up here has had some work done on the highway. Every one of us, if you ask for it. So I can't see why that's denied when it's really needed. You know, I'm not putting things on there just to say I'm putting it. It needs to be done. And it should be done. And I don't see why I should get an answer like that unless you got a better answer.
I can explain. Yeah, sure. So what we always do is we always forward it to the state. And when the state doesn't do nothing for an extended period of time, then we step in and do it. You know, Councilman Araby can attest to that. We've contacted them for 654. Councilman Otan knows as well. We've contacted them for the Lockport Heights area. They actually showed up and did the Lockport Heights area. They didn't, in fact, do the 654, so we stepped in and did it. In lieu of them doing Lockport Heights area, we made an agreement where we would go in and blow out the culverts if they dug the ditches, so kind of entice them to get them there. I have sent your requests to DOTD. They have a project plan for the Walmart side. They are doing something on 311 and some other area in Houma. They plan to be at the Walmart after that job. They couldn't give me a time frame. I asked for a timeline. They couldn't give me one. But they plan to be back, and when they take care of the Walmart area, they're going to jump over and do the McDonald's to Sonic area as well.
So how long is that gonna take?
I just said,
Because
they didn't give me a timeline.
the Walmart area doesn't do any good over here. I mean, you could go do this job with parish equipment on the shoulder, really out of the way, in about 4 or 5 hours. And it would really help West 122, 123, and 124.
And look, we've discussed it with our employees. It is a safety concern. They are kind of worried about it. If you remember, when I first got here, we did the old Safari Heights area. We did that. That was on a state highway, but we got permission from the landowners to work on the landowner side, not on the side of the highway. That is a high rate of speed area. I mean, everywhere else we've worked on a state highway, it has been 45 or less. This is, I mean, people doing 65 plus in that area, plus a dangerous intersection.
Well, where this area is at, there's a right turn lane, so they're not
Correct.
coming. They're further out,
So they're
speeding.
closer to us in the
you know.
turning lane, yeah.
And I'm sure you can get the right away from the landowner there,
Well, maybe you could help us facilitate that. That'd be
you
great.
know? And also, we got the one on West 111 that I turned in on February the 11th, and that's a contractor that did that job.
West 111?
Parish, it was done, and Wayne Pleasance was the one that did the engineering, and I'm sure he turned in all the paperwork to you. And that one says owner's responsibility, no right-of-way. So if they don't have one, it needs to be repaired. I'm sure we can get one, but it was done by a contractor.
Was the issue there?
What date was that? That was,
February, you said?
I turned it in 2/11/22.
Mm-hmm. And what's the issue?
West 111, all the way to the back, there's a culvert that collapsed, that's crossing the road, and it collapsed before it gets into the main culvert to drain to the 3235.
Okay.
Okay. And the last one is the Conjugation on West 191. There, a lady had called me. There's 2 bad tops to the catch basin, rusted out. She's scared somebody's going to fall and get hurt. And it was outside the parish responsibility. Yep. So if you can change out a busted culvert in the driveway, you should be able to change this out. I've been in office for 40 years, and this is number 3. In the 40 years that I've been here, we changed out one somewhere on West 138. So this would be, these 2 would be 3 in 40 years. So it's not something that's done every day. Now maybe throughout the parish, but not in my area.
So since I've been here, the only catch basin covers we have replaced were the ones in the corners of streets where buses and garbage and garbage trucks destroyed. Other than that, it's considered landscape culvert in somebody's front yard, and we do not replace
No,
it.
but what I'm trying to tell you is if you can change a culvert that's busted and the parish pay for it, you should be able to address this.
Yeah, but the culvert's holding back water. It
doesn't
not
matter.
providing drainage.
Then when you got a street sign that's missing, you go replace it. Who pays for it?
We do, but that's for safety.
Well, I mean, come on, man. Get with the program.
Yeah.
I'm just making my point because I don't think it's right. I mean, if you'd be changing 100 of them every day, I could see, but one, like I told you, that's the 3rd one in 40 years. And I look at it, if you're going to pay the street signs, if you're going to pay to change that culvert that's busted, there shouldn't be any difference there. That's just my opinion, you know. So, and one more thing, where we at with Senator Alain on that country club drainage?
That's on me. I engage with Mr. Rick Bootery, who handles some of the land affairs for Senator Ale. So we're working with them to try to come to a consensus.
Because he told me that he's come to an agreement on a right-of-way. Well,
In his mind, he might have come to an agreement on a right-of-way, but it wasn't with us.
Well, I'm getting conflicting stories. He said, well, I was told that he said he was going to come to an agreement.
I was told I was cute once, too. It doesn't mean it's true.
You what? Who was that? I didn't catch it.
I said I was told I was cute once. It doesn't mean it was true.
Well, I don't know who told you that, but they're surely mistaken. But anyway, you working with them on that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And Mr. Chairman, if I can, Councilman Lorraine, on the catch basin top issue, I think there's a huge distinction between a driveway culvert that's blocking drainage that is the parish's responsibility and a street sign versus a top to a landscape culvert that the parish did not own and did not put in, right? So it's like I put in landscape culverts in the front of my house 10 years ago, right? So if somebody steals the catch basin top tonight, or if it rots and falls apart, that should not be the parish's responsibility to go replace, because I made the decision to put that in there, not the parish.
But my question would be, that's a parish right away. It's really a parish ditch. So if somebody gets hurt, who gets sued?
We all gonna get sued.
Everybody?
It's a litigious world. I mean, look, I'll give you a point. It goes back to the Laurel Valley thing earlier tonight, right? That crane is on a parish right away. Does that mean we're responsible for taking it down? Absolutely not. Just because it's a parish right away doesn't mean anything.
No, but I'm just looking.
No, I understand your point completely.
I'm just making some comparisons. I mean, some of your comparisons don't jive in my book, in my mind. But that's you. If that's how y'all want to be, that's fine, you know? But treat everybody fairly.
Yeah, I think we've been very consistent on that.
So you're going to check out the deal with McDonald's to get that water out? You could go take a ride tomorrow and see that water's all
I've seen
stagnant.
it.
If you clean that ditch, go on over there. The state finally, and this cover is put to code where it should be.
And look, there's also 6 18-inch cypress trees that were planted in the middle of the ditch by one of the residents or landowners. So that's going to be another issue that, you know, we don't want to go put ourselves in the middle of. We're going to have to take those trees out, and I'm sure the landowner's not going to be happy because they were strategically placed there. They were planted. So.
Yeah, okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lorraine. Mr. Jones, I knew you would light that light up. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, Mr. Lafourche, thank you for your help cleaning up in Marydale. Some of it's been cleaned up. Still got a lot to go, but appreciate that. Can I get an update on Diplomat Way Canal?
Yes, sir. So we removed all the trees from it, working on cleaning it. The front, we were waiting on a price on a maintenance contractor. We're going to have to coordinate with the city of Thibodeau because their utilities do cross it, and there's no way for us to do that project without those lines being rebored. So I'll have to keep you posted on that. We'll have to have some conversations with Public Works in Thibodeau.
All right. Also, we need to cut the Louise Street Canal and Diplomat Way in the back.
Okay.
Not the Diplomat Way, I'm sorry, Euclid in the back part. Some people complaining about gators, so we need to get that cut.
Yes,
Also, update on King George. Remember the erosion?
We met with the maintenance contractor yesterday. They're a little backed up on some jobs. The rain's holding them up. They were supposed to be there 2 weeks ago. They're hoping to be there next week now.
All right. Thank you.
Materials are all in place. They just a little backed up.
Keep up the good work, Mr. Lafourche.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Mr. Araby, you have something else?
I just want to make one comment. Dylan, you made a remark that looked like we're starting to get a little help from DOTD now on some of our ditches. Please don't forget Highway 654. We
Yes,
need
sir.
some more work back there.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Araby. With nothing else, thank you, Mr. Lafourche.
Thank you, sir.
Item M, questions for the administration. Mr. Lorraine.
Yeah, I was just warming up. On these RV parks, especially the one in my district, for the Trish Park, I call that the golden goose. Everything probably have a gold road, gold post. Really and truly, it doesn't make sense to have built that. That's just my opinion. If you'd have done it at the very beginning, maybe. I just always said we should have went to the existing ones before we create something new. So that one isn't up to motion, but they are picking up some FEMA trailers right now. I know 3 of them that were picked up, being hauled out, okay? So this one don't even have one yet. So that kind of concerns me a little bit that, you know, they really, oh man, this is nothing but the best. So my question is, I don't know, who's gonna be put there? What people's gonna be put there? You have no idea?
So whoever still qualifies for housing that needs housing. So when you see the trailers moving out on our weekly call with FEMA, I think we're up to 57 move-outs parish-wide. So what's happening is people who are in trailers have fixed up their homes or fixed up their living situation, maybe moved in somewhere else and they don't need the trailer anymore. So as those trailers are done, they're being, now, and when we say moved out, they're not going to Area 54, right? They're being staged somewhere because they know they're gonna need some. At this group site, 'cause I think the Trish track is 34 or 35 units. The McLeod site is still set to go to construction here soon, and that's supposed to be somewhere around 80 units. So those units are probably going to come back once they're cleaned and if repairs needed, but they're being staged somewhere locally that they can do those work.
So that's the point I was getting. McLeod is still online, and what about Valentine?
So Valentine's done.
They're out?
The only group site we would have left, according to them, is the McLeod site.
Okay. So it's not necessarily going to be a resident of Lafourche Parish.
It will be a resident of Lafourche Parish. There are no other parishes coming into here. We have made that very clear.
That's what you're saying.
That's what we've told FEMA, is that nobody from.
That's not what FEMA told me, I can tell you that. Here we go again, conflicting what they're telling you and what I heard, you know. And, okay, there's, okay, the trash, still a serious problem down there, but I talked to Sam, and he enlightened me on a few things, so I'm going to take his word for it and see if he's going to, what he was telling me today, if that's going to come through. And if it doesn't, I'll be back in 2 weeks. But hopefully what he told me, I believe him, and I think he's sincere, so I think it'll work out. And
so while we're on that topic, Daniel, let me give you a quick breakdown of the numbers, right? So we've picked up 20,358 cubic yards in District 9 on parish right-of-ways. We've picked up 16,323 yards of debris in District 9 on state right-of-ways for a total of 36,681 cubic yards. Of the total 47,627 yards on parish right-of-ways, and the total 28,837 yards on state right-of-ways. That gives us a total of 76,464 cubic yards we've picked up parish-wide so far. 57% of that has been in District 9 on state right-of-ways, and 43% of the total has been in District 9 from parish right-of-ways. So out of the total amount of debris, 48% of it has come out of District 9.
But you got to remember, District 9 was leveled compared to everybody else.
I'm not disagreeing with you, but when
you know,
talk
and the
about,
problem that we have in Archie is
it up.
down the streets. Down the streets. I mean, you take from the South Lafourche Bridge going south to Golometa, it's unbelievable. And Golometa, half of it is cleaned up, but the other half is not. And so that's, you know, these big trucks cannot go down some of these little streets. You know that just as good as me. And that, you know, we need, like I said, I'm going to take the guy's word for it, and we're going to see what happens in 2 weeks. And one more complaint. Community action. We were at the Cutoff Youth Center 5 months after the hurricane, or 6 months after. And the other day I had some people call me. They went over there and the thing was, they weren't there. They had a sign on the door that to call this number, but they tried calling the number and nobody never answered. And they want you to go back to Matthews. So how many days are we going to have in South Lafourche with community action?
Can I take this one?
So Daniel, if you read the sign on the door, it says that you could call and make an appointment, and we would set up a round of appointments. We were paying an employee to sit down there for 10 hours a day and have 1 or 2 people show up. The numbers were not there to have somebody there every day.
The numbers were not there, but they were getting there. Because I went to Walmart and I had people telling me, man, what's wrong? They were just finding out. It takes, how you say that? It takes time for them to really know what's happening so they could use the system. How many days you open a week in Thibodeau?
4. So if you'd let me finish before you interrupted me, the numbers were not there to support somebody there 4 days a week all the time. We set up an appointment schedule so we knew that we'd have 10 people on Wednesday and we could go. So we are working on a rotating schedule where somebody will probably be down there 1 or 2 days a week when the numbers come back up or when the appointments build back up. So we're coming back.
Okay. Can you tell them to please answer the phone when they call? Because if you got a number and nobody answers the phone, it doesn't do any good. Thank you, man.
Thank you, Mr.
Might
Lorraine.
get something done right.
Finally got to thank you. Good job.
Yes, any updates? I got another question about the recycle bins in Norfolk.
So is the one back up front here? Yeah, the one up front is here. I don't know if we brought the one back to Thibodeau yet. I had a conversation with Dr. Clune about relocating it to the Nichols campus, that it would help their students and it would be a little bit easier of an accessible location versus kind of at the barn at Veterans. So I need to finish working that out with Nichols, but that one should appear in the next couple of weeks.
All right, keep me posted on that. The question I had about the roads with a local contract, I'm excited about that. I was just wondering why they didn't bid on 28, the one before.
I don't know.
Okay. And then last, item 9 in proposed. We shouldn't exit now, kind of get it out the way for the next meeting. The average salary for the parish president. That was a hot topic the last administration, and you know, I think when it was set, the administration before I came on the council, I think they had a good plan to take an average of those salaries, but then let's say somebody like the district attorney or the sheriff may have monies that they accumulate for going to conferences or reimbursements that jade your salary based on, can income and salary, I guess I'm using maybe the wrong words, can be different, you know, depending on what you're looking at, what's published online or what actually came in. Y'all took an average of the averages? What did you do, the high and low?
So I did not write that. I'm going to defer to Councilman Wendell, who put that together.
Okay.
Ms. Chasson will take over the chair.
Yeah, I was just, because it's been kicked around and I didn't hear anything else, because y'all had even asked me like, hey, you want to be a part of this, or talk to me about how you come up with different numbers, and, you know, it can be argued both ways. I was just wondering where you came
The
up.
two agenda items, there's one that talks about parish council salary, parish, the council chairman, parish president, different things. There's two separate ones. There were some discrepancies. This was basically a housekeeping thing, and we made some additions based on some of the recent lawsuits that we had,
Sure,
different
yeah.
litigation, even prior to last term and prior to that. That was reviewed by finance, by human resources. It was vetted through the district attorney's office to make sure everything was done. The verbiage was cleaned up as far as what the base salary is set off of. There was also, you know, some things from previous lawsuits that said that the parish president does not have to be issued a parish vehicle if he's going to be carpooling with spouse, with other people who may not be authorized to drive a parish vehicle in case of the event there's alcohol involved or anything. So there's an allowance in there for a vehicle versus a parish vehicle that they take on all that. But as far as the salary goes, classified employees, unclassified employees, council members, the council chairman, all of that verbiage now that explains what the benefits are and how the benefits are calculated are now the same. Because as we updated through ordinance, things that needed to be updated, we didn't include the other 3 or 4 personnel classifications, I guess you would say. So all that's been vetted to make sure that legally, they all say the same thing, everything's calculated the same, that the COLA raises are calculated the same, that when, I guess, for lack of better terms, when, like the chairman's in there, when the chairman gets the bump, when they go back down, they still get COLA, but it's calculated on.
But I guess my question is, I'm not arguing the fact that the 155 I think is good. I think the 65 is amazing. They had people to run for, you know, the amount of headaches and the mass amount of a budget that you're in charge of. Not to mention when things hit the fan, like with a storm and things like that.
Right.
I think the salaries warrant. I'm just wondering where did that number come from? Do we pull out the sky?
So currently,
Is it still I mean,
yeah, so currently it's based on the average now. So the salaries for the parish president's public record, it's $147,000. So when you factor in CPI, by the time we get to that 2024 term, when we ran the numbers for Councilman Wendell, that's what it would come out to be. And if you read the rest of the ordinance, it jumps up by whatever the parish president applies to the employees. So if in 2024, whoever the parish president is gives the employees a 2% COLA and a 2% merit as a 4% raise, then the parish president's salary rises by that 4%. If he gives a 2% raise, it rises by 2%. So it's either an incentive to treat the employees really good, but also to check to make sure that that salary doesn't explode hugely into the future either.
and it's been studied enough to where, don't want to end up like we've done in the past, like where it's clean cut.
It's a flat number. There's no averages. There's no math.
Jim
There's
came up
nothing.
with a number, it seems like.
And this started, we'll when we started this, we had some legal stuff going on in executive sessions, and this was actually before Ida. And the conversation came up that we needed to look at it, we needed to dive into it, we needed to recalculate it so that it wouldn't happen moving forward. I started working on it, then the storm hit, and going back and forth, so instead of forming a committee in some of those months that we had a lot of time on our hands, I continued to do things, and then with COVID, when we weren't, meeting on those times, and then it was vetted through all the different departments that it needed to go through, HR, finance, when the numbers were run, legal, so the DA's office, Lisa, reviewed it, made her adjustments, we sent it back to make sure that it was all mirrored and everything met before we move forward with
I just would
with
like to see
changing it
before
for
we,
the fifth time.
before we vote on it at the next meeting, I would like to see what it came out on the high end with the low end with the discrepancies we had before. Y'all showed us these things.
Well, I have some notes, and I'll send out an email similar to what Archie does that explains that before.
Because if I get asked on the street, I
Right.
want to be able to explain it, didn't just come out the sky.
But this was more of a housekeeping issue to address the loopholes that existed,
Yeah, it was bad.
not only with parish president, but with other benefits, with council benefits.
Yeah.
The way COLA is done and the way benefits such as insurance and everything else are paid. So
Thank
it
you.
kind of cleaned it up
Thank you.
across 4 levels. All right, I'll take back over. That is, thank you, Mr. Groh. Mr. Melvin.
Yes, sir. President Chess, I know briefly we talked before. I just wanted, so you know, some transparency for people to see in the meeting. Because I was getting texts actually during the meeting about the Isle de Jean Charles development in Trevor. So could you briefly give us a summation on the email that you got from Terrebonne about that today?
Yeah, so what you sent me was a post from Facebook talking about a certain population from a certain existing housing development in Terrebonne being brought to the Ile de Jean Charles redevelopment. We reached out to Chris Pulaski, who's the Director of Planning and Zoning in Terrebonne. What they were referring to in that Facebook post is not the Ile de Jean Charles development. There's a group site being built in Terrebonne off of Water Plant Road, similar to what we were doing in Lafourche. That's about 200 units over there. I cannot tell you for certainty that people from Senator Circle will or will not be involved in that group site. It's kind of like here, whoever qualifies for housing could be moved into that group site. I will tell you what we have asked on our end for both the Trish track and for the McLeod site is for everybody who will be moved into that group site to be automatically required to sign the privacy waiver so that we know who's going into that. Because our plan is to take that list and turn it over to the sheriff's office, basically have them run the names to make sure we're not putting sex offenders or felons or something in that group site. Because if we are, then we're going to have some issues. So Chris did assure me that they are doing the same thing on their group site, that once that process happens, they are going to work with their sheriff's office. The only thing I do have to confirm, and Chris sent it back in an email, is that not really going to apply to us, but any group site over 100 people automatically has a security detail assigned to it. So I need to work that out because McLeod, if it turns out to be 80 sites, we're going to be pretty close to that number. So I may push for if you're going to do 100, why not do 80? So we have some security in McLeod, but that's the general gist of it.
Right, so real quick, because there's a lot of moving parts. It was, bought, sold, and now it was FEMA trailers, and now there's something else going on. There's Hurricane Ida. There's a lot of moving parts. So now McLeod, but this is on Terrebonne Parish. You're just kind of saying what we're doing and what they're doing as well?
Yeah, so they're going to do the same thing. They're going to mandate those privacy waivers be signed so that they can figure out who's being moved in there to hopefully starve off any issues.
And there's no timeline as far as temporary, or again, that's something different?
I don't know their timeline. He did send a separate email with like the construction drawings for the FEMA group site that I'll be more than happy to send to you.
Okay.
But it doesn't have any timelines attached to it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Melvin. Mrs. Chasson.
Oh, yes. Okay, so to start off with community action. After Ida, they were at Golden Meadow Town Hall for 3 months. They've been at the Cutoff Youth Center for 6 months. They were off for maybe 2 weeks. They were gone for 2 weeks. She came back today. So for right now, every Tuesday, they're at the Cutoff Youth Center from 8:15 to 3 o'clock. And they can call that number and set up an appointment, or they can just show up. It doesn't have to be by appointment only, but it's on Tuesdays for now. Being there every day, she would have a few people show up in the mornings. Afternoons was pretty quiet. The only time someone showed up in the afternoon is if they didn't have everything they needed in the morning to handle the paperwork and the business that they needed to handle. So to say that someone doesn't need to sit there every day for 4 days, no, they weren't that busy. But being there today, Tuesday, there were quite a few people coming through the door. So yes, it is necessary, it is needed, and they are still meeting at the youth center. And on community action, and I just want to say, we went from 64th in the state to 7th, and now we're number 1 in getting money out to the people. Community action is really doing a great job getting the money to the people and making sure that they're taken care of here. And South Lafourche does have the lowest numbers in that area. The other thing I want to bring up is the mosquitoes. We're getting eaten alive. I don't know if are they spraying? Are they not spraying? Did they change something? Do they need to change something? I'm hearing that people aren't seeing the trucks as much as we once were, but mosquitoes are really bad in the area. Do we do aerial spraying?
So we did some aerial spraying after the storm.
Yeah.
Typically, on a routine basis, we don't due to the cost. But I have reached out. We talked, I guess, over the weekend maybe. I did get a Facebook message from somebody that had seen the truck, but they were concerned because they didn't see anything coming out the back of the truck. They could hear it running, but they didn't see the plume. So we reached out to mosquito control, and as soon as we get an answer from them, I'll pass it on to you. But all of their trucks are GPSed, so we can drill down on where they've been.
Yeah, and I know it's been raining pretty much every day, and that doesn't help the situation, but just trying to stand outside and talk to your neighbors is, it's rough. And second, the garbage trucks. I did speak with Mr. Sam also today, and he told me the trucks were concentrating on one area in particular for the last couple of weeks, and now they're back up and down on the streets. So for everybody that's been calling about their trash that didn't get picked up, they are going down each individual street, and they will get to you. We have a few months before we got to worry about the trucks not showing up anymore.
Yeah, the smaller Riverbird trucks are back to humping it down there, doing their regular routes. So I think the problem we're running into is that there's, again, this is a seasonal issue, right? People are trimming trees in addition to all the hurricane stuff. So they're not finishing that route every day like they typically would, because they're running back and forth to Avondale. So hopefully we get some normalcy here pretty soon.
Thank you, Mrs. Shesso. Mr. Adams.
I just want to update on.
Turn it off and back on.
Oh, there we go. Hey. So I just want to update on T-Boo's awesome Funaporium Park. Is there any movement on this?
I haven't talked to the attorney working on it in a couple of weeks, but I'll find out tomorrow. And
Thank
let you know. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. Mr. Araby.
Mr. President, can you give me an update where we at with our recreational grounds in Raceland? That place is a mess.
So I think
and not to cut you off, but I thought a while back when you gave us a report that it was going to be ready for soccer season. I don't see that happening.
Yeah, it's not. The plan was to have it ready for the April season. The contractor FEMA hired came in and did the turf work. There was some issues about watering and the sod shrinking and some issues, stuff under the sod. So I do know, talking to Lacey, she had gone map out the bad spots. There was some issues with it not being cut, so it looked like a jungle for a while. I think they had cut it. The last email we had back and forth with them was probably about a week and a half ago when you and I talked. And they were working the contract with, I think it was Cotton Enterprises, who they had expired, so they were working on getting a new contractor. I'll go back and find the email from last week, resend it, and copy you again on it so you can see if they send back a response.
Well, I know those couple of fields that they used were in real good shape when they took them, so I kind of like to see them put back like they were, if not better. What's the status on the tearing down of the ag building? 'Cause, you know, we got that other show coming up pretty soon, and that was spoke about also.
Yep, so the plans and specs for the demo are on the street. They're out to bid right now. We are working internally. It's going to be torn down before the show. What I've talked to Ms. Falls at the Ag Center about was finding some very large tents to put up. So we're working on getting quotes for tents that we're going to be able to make that 200 by 100 area so they can have their big multi-county or multi-parish show in November. And then we're working with them that depending on what that cost looks like, we're talking to them about bringing those tents back in January for the parish show, so we can have the parish show here. If that's not feasible, then they're going to go back to the Assumption Arena for the parish show in January.
One other last question. my estimate for the cupboards for the Gaines Fire Station. You got anything on that yet?
I have not. It was on my to-do list for today to follow up with Floyd on, so I'll make sure he does that tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Araby. Mr. Jones?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Community Action has been monitoring the Donna Bayou site for the last 4 months, and Ms. Amanda has been working with Ms. DeLynn on the numbers and trying to get them up. But actually, at that point, Daniel, the numbers were so low, a person didn't need to be in there 4 days a week. And Ms. DeLynn is right. We moved from number 4, number 7 to number 1 now in Laheep. Actually, Ms. Amanda spoke with him this week, and we're getting a large sum of money again for the residents of Lafourche. But, Mr. President, I would like to get the names and numbers from Mr. Lorraine on who called and didn't get the answer, so we can contact those people.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Item N, Parish President's final comments. Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Councilman Jones stole my thunder a little bit, but Ms. Amanda from Community Action sent out an email this morning that we actually depleted the cooling funds already due to the high energy cost. So they contacted Baton Rouge, and we are getting another large tranche of money. So kudos to Ms. Matisse and her staff for that. On the camera front, Councilman Otan and I talked about that a little bit this morning with the sheriff and his staff. The camera in Lockport, we had to work out some of the ubiquity equipment. The camera in Lockport actually went live today, so we can see it at the Lockport boat launch. We're waiting for Energy to install the power at Butch Hill, so hopefully that camera will come back on in the next couple of days. The 3 cameras in front of Abbey and Layton should come on later on this week. And then the camera company is going to work with the sheriff's office to have a detail ride with them when they put up the rest of the cameras so that they can do it safely in Marydale and the rest of Abbey. So we're making some progress on that. I do want to emphasize, I know Councilwoman Shessel and I have talked about this a lot over the last couple of days, people with high energy bills. We did talk to, after a slight social media post, talk to PSC Commissioner Green. He and I have talked a lot over the last couple of days after that social media post. So we're going to work on getting him down here for some meetings with us internally and you guys, but we're also working at setting up a round table with residents and businesses so he can really see the impact of what's happening to everybody's electric bills as we see increased fuel charges and storm charges. So we'll let you know as that transpires and we get some dates. That's it, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. President. We'll move on to item O, adjournment, on a motion by Mr. Adams, second by Mr. Jones, that with no further business, the Lafourche Parish Council regular meeting of July 12, 2022 be adjourned. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes 9 yeas, 0 nays at 6:42 p.m.